Okay, thank you, Jen, for being here. I think we've addressed so many issues and we talked about many important situations that a lot of countries are dealing with, from Guatemala to Central Asia to post-communist countries. But I want to know what your perspective is on what the current research agenda is heading. You can talk about your own research agenda or in general.
So there's a couple of things that I'm working on, right now, and then things that are ahead. With our colleagues at UFM, I'm working on this project on foreign aid and the evolution of customary governance, because we thought customary governance was going away, but it looks like it's really come back in many places throughout the world, and there's been a real resurgence of research on this topic, but not really good explanations as to why it's returned. So I'm really trying to tackle that. The other work that I'm doing is there's two other main projects. One is rethinking governance and public administration and helping us, it's a field like foreign aid where it's easy to, I don't see enough classical liberals engaging with these topics. And in fact, like a lot of people say, oh, government's bad, so we should just, write it off or get rid of it. And across the board, even I think from wherever people are in the political spectrum, there's not a lot of very good work on government reform and how you make things better. Government's not going anywhere. I think we're seeing this across the world. How can it be made more effective and more efficient and preserve human agency?
And are you doing this throughout the lens of bureaucracy or public administration?
Yeah, through public administration. This is sort of a more long-term project that I'd like to engage in, because I'm frustrated that I think the last generation, I teach in a public policy school where we teach students how to do advocacy. Advocacy, let's do public engagement and advocacy and be the change. But change is really hard. And then how do you have good ideas for what to change and how? And reform is a slow, messy process. And I feel like people on all sides, like both on the right and the left, don't have the patience for thinking through things. They just want to say, my side, no government, big government, rather than, okay, how do we fix things? And so using sort of this classical liberal lens to think through reform is something. I'm working with Paul Alagica, who's written some work on, the classical liberal approach to public administration, is one priority. But another one that I'm working on, there's two major foreign policy projects. So because I've been working in conflict areas at the very micro level, I want to take that to the next level. And there's two key issues I want to look at. Number one is regional cooperation and regional integration. So I have a project I'm starting next year on bottom-up regional cooperation. And I'm seeing really interesting trends throughout the world where countries who once did not like each other are starting to work with each other. And I see this in Central Asia quite a lot. I see this in the Middle East. We're seeing this with the Abraham Accords. I'm seeing this in Eastern Europe as a result of Russia's invasion in Ukraine. We're seeing a lot more cooperation in Europe in many ways than we've seen, at least in Eastern Europe, like with Ukraine and the Black Sea countries. So I think but a lot of this cooperation isn't coming from regional organizations. It's coming from bottom-up, a bottom-up need to solve immediate security and economic crises. So, and people haven't really used that lens to study regional cooperation before. So I'm trying to use kind of an Ostromian lens on these foreign policy problems. And I think this is a very interesting time to be looking at them, because we're seeing a lot of very positive sum thing, like the Abraham Accords is a very positive something for the region. And I have many friends in Israel, for example, who think that the issue with Palestine can be solved through more regional cooperation and have a Middle Eastern Union, for example. There's talk of this, even at a time where we think that these wars are intractable, that maybe, cooperation somehow, especially coming from economic benefit, can solve some of these challenges. And then the other issue that I'm really fascinated by, and this is sort of a dream project of mine, is to look at intractable conflicts. There are certain wars that have gone on for a very long time, and we've never, you're not supposed to select on the dependent variable. Well, I want to select on the dependent variable to understand why you have wars that almost seem never ending.
I feel like the regional cooperation topic is very interesting because we are seeing, from my perspective, two trends. Some isolationist policies, but that has led other countries to find other ways to make a stance against those isolationist policies, because you see the benefits of cooperating with other countries, free trade, open borders, but at the same time, you see other people talking about closing all the borders, and each country has to secure their.
It's easy for the United States to say that. Because it's a big country, but smaller countries, that are landlocked, don't have this privilege because you have to trade.
Yeah, but also in like other areas such as migration, and people are against migration, but we also see the benefits of migrants in other countries.
So migration is a different, we could add migration to part of something that would become regional cooperation. But I wouldn't put that at the number one, I think people are just looking at trade and access. Migration could be part of that. But if I have really tough borders and I won't give you a visa to come to my country, even just to visit, but within regions, right? Like, I'd just be curious to get your perception about like what we're seeing in Central America, right?
And I feel like, as you said, because it's so hard to get in, people have to find ways. If you're not having the opportunities to evolve in your own country, you need to survive in a way, but it just makes it more dangerous for them. But that also like creates more tensions between the countries, because in a way you have to come together to solve the problem, but now they're just like pushing each other away.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a very difficult issue.
And I think that we also have examples of regional cooperation, how it started as being beneficial, but now has translated into something not as good. Like, I have the European Union in mind. That I think it started as a great idea. It prevented wars for so long, but now it has become this like huge bureaucratic organization where all the conflicting interests are being politicized, so it can devolve instead of evolve.
Right. And so what we're particularly interested in is sort of this bottom up, right? So using this kind of Ostromian lens on regional cooperation to take countries as kind of units of analysis to understand under what conditions do they work with one another, how do they build bilateral agreements with one another, are they creating regional organizations? In many parts of the world there are no regional organizations, or there are regional organizations that exclude important actors. The European Union is an example of something that started off as a was it bottom up or was it top down? I think there are questions, right? And very curious to see about regional cooperation here in this region, because you have a variety of governments with different attitudes. Of course, the United States is shutting itself off, which is going to make cooperation among the countries here even more important.
Yeah, and I think right now even though it's a complicated political landscape, it's one that gives us a lot of opportunities to do interesting research on like this type of things. When you study very particular cases that are coming around at this time. So I wanted to thank you for having this interview with us. I thought it was very interesting. We talked about many issues that involve Guatemala, but also in other countries. So thank you, Jen. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great questions.
Thank you.